evening. Gotta use my high-tech zoom out, which is a hand crank. All right. Tonight, doing something a little different. Trying to have some sort of a theme to the show. Something that has come up time and time again this week, and tonight I'm drawing a little scene. Instead of just drawing characters or heads or whatever, I'm going to try to talk about um, what it's like to draw a scene in a comic book. Drawings with narrative value. That's kind of what it is. I've been doing a lot of concept art, digital art, design lately, but working on pages. You know, I think what I'm going to draw. Let's get our horizon one. Base. I was thinking about drawing a little like cantina type deal. Something that would exist in the Helena world, but trying to come up with the story, it's you want it to be interesting. When I was talking to the kids at the school, I was talking about making things. In comics, you just don't want things to be boring. It's like the cardinal sin. Well, I mean, that's something we could talk about. What I was thinking about, like, we got to set the scene first. So, like, it's in a fantasy world. It's what are they drinking? What do they like to drink? Like, these are the little questions that I ask myself when I'm, devising an idea for something. What do they drink out of? What do they sit on? When I'm thinking about storytelling, because that's like, according to most people, that's my biggest strength is my layout and my storytelling. And that all comes, and that's a multi-layered thing. I don't want an ordinary bartender. Let's get ourselves like a cool, multi-armed bartender. That's kind of like a little monstery, but not too scary. Kind of guy you can trust to serve you drinks. What I'm doing right now is really just roughing out the big shapes. In order to set up a really good scene, if you grid out, like put the tic-tac-toe board over your panel, and for us, the panel is a 9 by 12, so it's a vertical rectangle, and then you divide it into thirds. Okay. And when you're thinking about formal composition, okay, you have to think about, you never want to be in the middle. You never want to be dead center, of the middle, because that takes away visual interest. These crosshairs right here, where these four vertices meet, these are your points of interest. And around these and these lines, and I think what that means is what we want. I'm gonna make like a big giant, how like in the bars that have like a bunch of different types of Jameson or whiskeys that specialize in it, they have them like hanging from the ceiling in like these bottles, or like, and let's not make it a bottle, let's make it like a soft, almost like an udder almost. Put a little valve on it. And this is going to probably be a funky drawing tonight. It's a little different. I don't know how people will respond to this, but this is really getting into my process. This is getting into how I draw and what I like to draw and what I really like to do, and when it comes to what I like to do, whether it's comics or an illustration or a concept, I like telling a story. And in this case, we're doing like a little bar scene. And this isn't something I've tried before on a stream. Everybody likes a straightforward character that they've heard of. So, no, I think that this will be one of those ones that when I do the time lapse, it'll make more sense, and then I'll do like a monologue over it or something. Now that I know how to do the video editing stuff, so that's one of the things I've been working on. All right, we've got kind of like a little stand here. Let's give him like a little overhang, almost like it's. We're just designing on the fly, so we're not getting too attached to anything. Hey, Jonathan. Not getting too attached to anything, and we're okay with making mistakes, like, because this is all free thinking. Like, I planned nothing tonight because I've been working my butt off all day, been working my butt off all week. So, and today, this is what I've been thinking about, what I've wanted to draw, on my own. Now that this is below the horizon line, you're going to see the top of it, a little barrel of some kind. One of the things that really, like, I think sets apart. Let's put like a little, little short guy standing on the barrel, like ordering a drink. And see, again, we're just layering the ideas of what's going on. Like, I didn't do a. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I'll give you the spotlight there. Look at you with the spotlight comment. There's Jonathan, Rockstar. Oops, click the wrong thing. See, that's why people have. And see, what is everything made of here? Is everything made of stone? Everything made of bamboo? Like, what type of town are we dealing with? Is this a shady bar? Is this a fun place? I don't know. But I like the idea of like a small, like, lizard man right here ordering his beverage. And these are the things that I like about, fantasy comics or video games or movies in general, is that, like, there's no set rule. I would say in when are Jay and I going to do another drink and draw? We're actually planning a dual sketch night. It's not going to be next week because I'll be doing your sketch, your Spidey Iron Man piece. Ask ourselves, what's the floor made of? Yeah, and we were actually talking. One of the things we were talking about is I shared. I don't know if anybody follows my art station or some of the other places where I post my work, but I've been doing some digital Helena artwork for like a potential game, and we're talking about, like, Jay knows games as much as he knows comics. Like, it's pretty staggering, the amount of knowledge that he has in his noggin for games. And we were talking about doing an Acts of Helena like RPG, where it would probably be free or very cheap, like on a Gumroad file, and it would be designed as a PDF that you could just print it off at home, and you could print off the board, the pieces, and everything on your own, and it would have all sorts of cool artwork and card art and story and stuff to go along with it. So we were talking about doing something like that for fun, in our spare time, which doesn't exist. But We have so much fun doing this stuff that, like, even though we're super tired when we're doing it, it's fun to do. I'm gonna not square off the bar. Okay. Remember what I said about the thirds, where our eyes need to be seeing points of interest. Why am I drawing this out? I just wanted to draw a scene because I am not great at doing stagnant pinups. I have to come up with a story. I have to come up with a reason why they're there and why they're doing stuff and why things are happening. And anytime I get stuck with like a commission of a character I really don't know or have no suggestion on as to what they're doing or why they're there, I have a hard time. I really do. And it usually ends up like a stiff. Having fun with this little guy right here, this little character. I don't know why. He's got to have some maybe like a bag of money. Yeah. Let's pick a light source. Let's put a window. Remember, here's this line right here. We're going to put a big window right here, just behind this person. So what it'll do is it's on the back wall. Let's see if I find her. What that'll do is it'll also frame this character that's sitting at the bar on a little stool. Let's not do a plain stool, with the wood legs or whatever. Let's think of something cool. Like, what would be cool? Like, what's just something maybe we haven't seen before? Something like that. Organic shapes. We're going with organic shapes. Really good point. I It's that kind of a day. So let's just where this guy's from, maybe like where he lives, what he does for work. And I add like a big collar to his shirt. Looks dapper. Who knows? Maybe we'll only get to the pencil stage tonight because this is a complex shot. This is going to basically be a rough for a panel. That's what I'm seeing. I was talking about images with narrative value, and one of the things that came up this week during a discussion with another artist was, what is good design and like what is hard to do with visuals that need narrative value, and it's really easy to make images with a story or with visual interest if you're drawing something that already is just cool. Like if you're drawing, like you mentioned earlier, a bar brawl or something where there's like lots of action, I think that that's easier to make look cool than like something like three guys ordering drinks at a bar. I'm thinking like, Mobius and, Will Eisner and all these great artists who could take, something really simple like you know, a newspaper stand opening up, in the city, or let's give him like a cool belt. I don't know why I'm fixated on this character, but I just like him. Let's give him some like an iguana. They have like those spikes at the back. And just like last week when I was just drawing faces, like this is what's in my sketchbook. If you were to flip through my sketchbook, you would see figure studies, you'd see me drawing lots of hands, and you'd see me drawing random scenes. Stuff that may or may not ever be used, but it's like trying to put layered narrative value into scenes. Now, let's say, the window's here, so that's our primary light source. So we'll fill in stuff as we go. This guy's back is going to be mostly in shadow. And I don't always know going in what the story will be right away. In this case, it's evolving as I go. That's why it's not necessarily something that'll ever be published or anything like that. It's just, and look, it'll be a drawing that who knows, maybe nobody would ever be interested in purchasing or looking at, but I am going to get something out of this because I'm thinking about all the little narrative bits to this little scene. Let's give him a knife. What's something we could do with the barrel to not make it an ordinary barrel? I'm going to keep the basic shape, but let's do something with it. Let's put like a little tap on the end. And again, like I'm thinking of like when you're at a bar and there's just a place to get water. Like if you're at a bar and there's like a little bottle. They would have like a just a thermos at the end of the bar. One of the biggest things that I've taken away lately from talking to other artists and people who want to be artists, and it's really just learning. Like one of the things that you're asked is like, what should I be practicing? Like I think between what I showed last week and what I'm showing this week, you're seeing two things that I use all the time. Um, and it's coming up with story first for an image like this. And it's just really testing your writing skills. Have you ever sat in a room and just looked around and, said things like, and made up a story for like all the people that were around you? Like, oh, this person's here on their retirement party. It's their honeymoon. It's their, it's something that I've done. Sitting in an airport, just wonder what people are doing, where they're going. There's never just one seat at the bar. We're probably going to have 3 of those. I don't want to hide our barkeep and what's going on up here. We're going to have all kinds of like pipes and cool like machinations going on up here. And this is another one where who knows what the time lapse will look like, how far we'll get. But the finished image will be fun because I like to put humor into these things too. You know. Remember, we were designing, like, trying to come up with just an interesting bar stool. I was thinking maybe it's like on tusks. These are like tusks of some animal. Put some rope hanging down so that you could like put your feet on it. Just simply designing what people are sitting on changes, the room. All right, well, we're working our way around the room here. Like I said, this is gonna have a bladder, and we're gonna have a pipe. I don't want to show where the pipe goes because that's like the kind of thing that I like to wonder about. So like this is the drink dispenser. There's the little spigot. Now, because it's up high, it wouldn't be one that you turn. It would be just one that you pull down because you're not going to reach up and turn something like that. Again, just thinking about how things work and why they work and what they're there for and how people use them in that world. That's something that I'm always trying to think of. I feel like this pipe is like really flimsy. So like there's a something holding it up. I don't know. Somebody asked me once, like why do I, not just draw pinups and stuff on these streams, and it's because I find them boring. They're boring, and they have no other than like studying the human figure. For me, they don't have really a lot of value for working on them. I know people like looking at them. It's the kind of thing that gets people to look at your page, but man. I'm really roughing in just like a basic grid based on our vanishing points. Now I'm going to go with a dark background. We're going to darken it in. You're going to see some other beverages that are there, but it's like the hood. And what I want is to go far enough back to where his head breaks the line there. And I just don't want it to be boring. All right, we need to figure out how much space this guy's occupying because I think he's filling a drink here. I'm gonna give him 3 fingers. He's got 4 arms. I want to make him a little friendlier looking. I think he looks a little too scary. Of course, I'm out of pencil lead. Hey, there we go. One of the things I like to do also is just, I'll draw some random bits of architecture. I know that that's really boring, but like when you end up drawing a comic book, you spend most of your time drawing the background. If it's in a city or whatever. There. Got one arm up here. And see, that's what the grid's for, so that this, like the benches, don't look like they'll fall over. Some fancy looking bottles behind him. Just rough them in. An IPA, like that's a great question. Like, what do they drink? What do they drink at this bar? I don't know, but it comes out of this like weird ceiling system. I would think that this thing is like hooked up to like something in the backyard, whether it's a living creature or something. It would be something unexpected. Yeah, yeah. This week that would make sense, I think. Let's give him a vest. Like I said, I'm not trying to draw everything necessarily perfectly. And I don't feel like there's any real major mistakes. We're really just, jamming on an idea, like a concept, and trying to think narrative based. Because in comics, one of the things that I find, so disheartening in some comics is that like they, even with Google and like all these like abilities to find all the reference in the universe, some of the stuff that I see is just boring to look at. They go with the classic. They all drive the same car. They all drive the same thing. There's very little out there that delves into the fantastical elements and goes beyond the reference. And when I draw my own comics, I don't want to be hindered by reference. I want it to be a starting point. I want it to be where we begin our design, not where we end it. I'm going to add some leaves of some kind, some giant palm leaves. We're just eyeballing the perspective. Because I'm using organic shapes, I'm not, completely a slave to the grid. The grid is something that, I'm using to my advantage when I need it in a shot like this. Because I take believability over realism, 10 times out of 10. And what does that mean? That means that I want it to be cool looking and, it makes sense in the logic that you see it in. But it doesn't have to make sense, in the real world. And once we get these pencil line downs, I'm just going to real quick with the ink brush. I'm not going to go nuts with the, being too fine with it. There's going to be lots of blobby lines. Got to make sure that we stay a little bit in with our. And I'm just getting the basics. Like the silhouettes are important. We've got very humanoid characters. I think we need like a very non-human, maybe hanging out on the corner here. See, this is what I'm talking about. You just go in and you just add, keep adding, keep going, keep adding different ideas. Get as many ideas crammed into one sketch as you can. Because sometimes, like on a day like today, for me, this is the only on paper drawing I'm going to get to do today. And I want it to be as much something I can learn from as I can. This is going to be dark. This is going to be light. Dark. That's fine. There's our floor. I'm just going to add some stone. It's kind of generic, just the stone floor, but I think in some places you can be a little generic and it grounds all the other fantastical elements if there's something familiar in there. Like this guy, I think is going to be like a little bug man. I think we need like a bug man or something. Something that's not humanoid. We got this person here. I'm just kind of looking at how the shapes fit together. I decided it's a friendly bar, like my old neighborhood bar in JP. Or if you showed up there and you were not causing trouble, you could find yourself a conversation and have a nice evening. Oh man, like other things at the bar, like I mean, there's got to be like little snacks. Let's put some snacks in here. Like, what do they eat? Let's have like a little net full of some sort of little critters. Kind of like the equivalent of like a bag of chips at a dive bar. Except they're like little creatures. And again, I'm trying to move fast and think fast. And, like this is not something I'd enter into like a rendering contest, but like, man, like in a storytelling ideal, like I can just keep going. Just keep going. This is the kind of thing that Mobius talked about, like when he would do his automatic drawing. Let's give him like an extra set of legs just to keep that going. Like, how do you sit on a bench with 4 legs? I don't know. We just got to kind of figure it out. But he's got to look comfortable. All right. And I think it needs a sign. Like, what's the name of our bar? Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's twice as bad. I'm not second guessing the ideas. I'm just going forward with them. This guy, I think we're going to make him kind of fuzzy. Why? I don't know. Just decided we need a fuzzy guy. He's got to have his beverage. So what do they drink out of? Like, do they drink out of the classic mug? Let's try to design a cool mug. That's got like a horn hand and some ropes. And again, like I'm saying these things, and you're just seeing like the base shape. So hopefully, when I get a pen and the brush going, you'll be able to see the shapes better. Yeah, we need another little not human looking guy. Because I strongly dislike it when all the creatures in a scene look like a person in a suit. Why are we limiting ourselves to that framework? Like that's I mean that's the one thing that like in Star Trek, like I found so boring after a certain amount of time is that everybody's just, a person with a new prosthetic on their face as the alien. Some of my favorite episodes are the ones that really like give you something different, whether they were like energy beings or Q is the classic example where he chooses to be human, but like when you see his true form in some later episode, you know. Yeah, see, Brian, you get it. You're in. So we should have a sign that says like poker on Thursdays. See? There we go. Yes, they have to have like a lot of drinks to do that. I think this is a smaller guy, so maybe he has to use both hands to hold his mug. And I get it, these just look like squiggles, but I'm gonna try to pull them together so they make more sense. I'm gonna give him like a little scarf. Why not? I wear a scarf sometimes. I'm gonna give this little guy a scarf. His other foot's back there, one foot's over here. And look, see, there's a creature really quickly that just doesn't look like a guy in a suit. You know, it just doesn't look like a guy in a suit. Decided our guy's name is Ray. This is Ray's bar. And you can just see how much like narrative stuff we've just crammed into this thing already. You know, and I'm gonna keep going. Like I'm just gonna keep adding layers to those ideas. Like I'm gonna put jewelry on these characters. Like you know, they're out. They want to look nice. Like what are they wearing? What are they doing? You know, these are the design questions that you know, and I will labor over these backgrounds in books that I'm working on, full well knowing that no one short of like the people who really know my work are going to care one way or the other what's going on in the background. They just want to know like what's Helena doing next or what's the tick doing next. Brian, you draw better than you think you do. So some of those undersea hero ideas I think looked really nice. I do. I'm not just saying that. There's a cartoony element to it, and I think honestly, if you were like, "Hey, I really want to get into drawing," I think you absolutely could hone your skill and do really, really cool stuff. Especially with your sense of humor, I think you could do some fun stuff. That's what I like seeing get put out into the world. Um, Tonight and last week's drawing look easy because right now I'm not laboring. I'm not second guessing. I'm making this up as I go. And I am promising myself that, if it doesn't look quite right, it's not a mistake because this is the first time any of this has ever been attempted. And it's when I'm drawing characters that are like, um, beloved and well known that's when I get my feathers ruffled up a little bit because I get a little nervous. You want to do a good job portraying these characters that these people are, usually they're paying you to draw them. Let's put some cool designs on his jacket. Why not? Like, just keep going. Just keep adding. I think has to have pockets. I think pockets exist in fantasy worlds. I do. I just like this little guy. I don't know. Standing on this barrel. Because I try to tell people, like, and I even said this at the school, like, I was never voted best anything for art in school, you know, and I was just obsessed. And I practiced constantly. I bought tons and tons of art books. Anytime I could see a way to get better, that's what I do. And I've been trying to pick up new skills all the time. Like I'm learning new digital painting techniques right now. I'm being asked to draw in styles that I'm not used to or comfortable with. So I have to do lots of studies. Like there's a convention that they announced that I did the poster art for that, they want it in a more anime influenced style. And that's not something that I've really done, but I've got to give it a shot because it's my job. And, I'm really putting my guts into it. And I'll be interested to see, like, I can still see that it's my hand drawing it, but it definitely has like the earmarks of like a little design on his jacket. Oh, went over his belt. Remember, we wanted to have his little bag of money. Like a little bag of money. He's got his little knife. Doesn't strike me as a sword guy, so we're not gonna give him any sort of crazy sword or anything. All right, well, let's get the brush rolling. Let's remember this is our light source. So some designs on his jacket. So let's put like a bandage on his knee. Maybe he's got like a bum knee. And what I'm drawing from isn't just memory, it's thinking specifically about like different examples of the biology of different creatures. Like what is successful in nature on how their feet work, how their fins work, how their tail works, how these things all link up together. What's a tail for in nature? It's for balance. That's the whole point. And again, at the end, we're not going to have like a great super rendered illustration, and that's not really what we're going for. We're going for ideas. We're going for narrative value. And you got to have clarity. And what I'm also trying to do is avoid tangents. Like that's something that is a constant thing that I'm trying to do. Try moving my light a little bit. Here, remember that little stool that we designed? Let's put like not a cushion, but just like a coat, like a cover on the top. Actually gonna have to use pen a little bit more than I thought I would, but that's okay. I thought we'd be able to just scoot around, but things are so small on this paper that I just can't, you know, rough it out. Here's our little bucket of water at the end of the bar. And like I said, coming up with ideas. There's like rope holding these tusks to the base, to the seat, as it were. This is what I like to do when I'm coming up with stuff for anything. Whether it's the Tick or Undersea Hero or whatever. Like I will just draw a scene with a bunch of new stuff in it that maybe hasn't been seen before. A little texture. Let's put like a brass cap on the end. Like I said, I want like little ropes between the two that you can put your feet on. There's like a little stool. Come back to this. Just add little. This is the kind of thing I would love to, if there was a market for it. People were like at a convention, instead of, draw me Spider-Man, they were like, hey, just draw whatever you want. I think I think Jeff Darrow does some stuff like that where he just is like draws like a big scene of people. Something from Hard Boiled or whatever. I've got some smudges on here, but that's not a big deal because it doesn't affect the idea. And if I was doing a clean illustration of this, like if I wanted to turn it into something, I could either scan it in and clean it up, or I could light box it onto another clean piece of paper. But just like this little guy right here, I don't know why. I think he's fun. I would have him show up in Helena for sure someday. It's got his little bag of money. He's going to buy his beverage. Just a little short-handed texture. And again, this is more just a note for myself because, like, you need to visually show differences in texture, differences in things, and like this is not going to be a color illustration at any point that I'm aware of. So I need to differentiate this little guy's texture from the rest of him. Normally I would have these wrap around the form better, but again, this is just a quick rough. So you want it to be like a friendly bartender. Remember I told you he's got 4 arms? He's got one of them pouring the drink, one of them catching the drink. He's got the other 2 on the other side. I think we've got to get the fourth arm in here. Try to do it without making any sort of tangent. See if we've got a bigger marker we can work with. Hey Desiree, how you doing? Just having some fun doing like a scene, just like a fantasy scene rather than, just drawing a character. Just drawing characters gets boring for me. So working hard. Hopefully not too hard. So let's try to finish up this kooky drink dispenser here. Got some baseball in the background. Nice. Are they winning? Is your team winning, the Dodgers? Brewers are down by 2. Sorry, man. Wondering how I'm going to render these palms. I'm not sure. I actually think the best way for me to do it might be to like chunk it out and then go in with some white. just refilled this thing. This is just for fun. This is at the end of the day, and when I'm just like last week, this is one of those exercises that I do for myself. It's just trying to come up with a story in one image with having no start, nothing to go from, no prompt. You have to design all the characters, the whole world, and it's like this guy runs a little bar. Like, what do they serve? What do they drink? What do they sit on? Where are they from? What type of place is it? Is it a friendly place? Is it a nice place? Is it is it a bar that you like to hang out at? I don't know. But this is the type of thing I'll do, whether it's like a cantina scene or like just people walking in a park. This is the sort of thing that really, it's an exercise that I recommend to a lot of people who like are especially wanting to get into comics or visual storytelling of some kind. It's just to try to riff on coming up with a story. Um, yeah, that was the idea. Is that these are friendly. It's a friendly place to be. I wanted it to feel kind of like my old bar back in JP. It's the kind of place where if you just came in with a good attitude, people would talk to you, and if you wanted to talk to people, people would talk to you, and you have a nice evening and meet some people and have some beverages and talk shop. Or if you wanted to be left alone, they absolutely left you alone. I just I liked that everybody was fairly friendly and approachable, and unless you had a bad attitude and then boss lady kicked you out, which usually everyone cheered if someone was being a jerk and they were then kicked out. And I'm just trying to go through and not create tangents and come up with ideas as I go. And this is like a cartooning and a writing exercise as much as it is a drawing exercise or anything of that nature. Because drawing for comics or for anything like that is telling a story, like you got to be able to write a certain extent, you know and you want things to be interesting. Like I had some fairly long talks this week about making mundane things interesting. Why draw the same car or the same drinking glass or the same anything that you can just Google or go see at the, you know, uh, go see on in your kitchen or whatever. Make it something you've never seen before. Make it something cool looking or interesting. That's kind of what the idea is here. And sometimes it's tough. Like sometimes, when I'm just going too fast, I can't come up with anything really new. And that's the challenge. Always trying to come up with something that's new. My idea was that the drinks come through this pipe and we don't know where it goes or what it is that they're drinking. And doing simple little bits of I like to draw silly stuff. I don't get asked to do it a lot, but I do really enjoy drawing silly stuff. It's like, well, maybe this guy just got off work. What does he do for work? He's got 4 legs. So, like, what would a guy with 4 legs do for work? Oh, we've got his beverage here. And the obviously the perspective is a little wonky, but, it's, I don't want any of the ideas held back by focusing too much on the mechanics of the drawing. He's an accountant. The guy with 4 legs is an accountant. Sure, let's go with it. So that means he's gotta dress a little maybe he's gotta dress a little nice. So let's, what does a nice dress fellow look like in this part of town? What's the equivalent of, like, wearing a suit in this part of town? See, that's when you have a storyteller right there, that's the kind of stuff that you think about, and that's perfect. That's exactly what these exercises are for. When I think of, like, really fancy, I think of, like, the tails of a fancy jacket, so let's give him, like, a jacket with tails. Maybe he's an older fellow. Let's make him a little older. Give him some wrinkles on his forehead, couple of moles. So since he has 4 legs, that means he has 3 fingers and 3 toes. If he was learning to count to 12. I like doing this when I'm, traveling. This is something I like to do when I'm traveling too. Like, if I'm not doing, because sometimes when I'm doing drawing exercises of like figure studies, people are like, "Oh, he's just drawing people," and they don't have any clothes on yet. And it's just like I can't tell you how many times that conversation has happened in, on an airplane where it's like I'm doing a figure study. I draw the wireframe first, and then we put, the clothes and everything on afterwards. Gotta know where everything goes first before you know how the clothes fit. No, but it'll work. We're gonna give him no shoes so that that part of the story you can see his feet. What would an accountant use to calculate things at this time? I mean, I don't they wouldn't have a calculator. Would it be an do they have an abacus? It just got a little sadder. I don't know. Just making this up as I go along. The suit, giving it like kind of like a star motif. So what if he had like a giant instead of a briefcase, he has a giant abacus? I don't know. See if we got room for it. I gotta draw the. And like I said, who knows if any of these characters will ever be used again? But it's just really good to have the writing practice. Let's go with some pinstripes. There we go. Let's go with a little pinstripe suit. Let's get our little man at the end here. Um, the impetus for this creature was just so that not all of them looked like people in suits. Give him a little scarf. He's a nice bartender. He's the kind of guy that calls you a cab and helps you get into the cab if you need it. see if this pen decides to work. Since I just refilled it, it keeps drying out real quick. Since the ink's not flowing, maybe it got clogged. I had to just do like a little bit at a time. Windows here, so I'm going to have the light coming out this way, so we don't have to black out the whole thing. What does the little worm man do for a living? I have no idea. I'm going to say that he works construction. Give him like a little work belt. Some tools in it. There you go. Perfect. Supervisor. He looks important. He looks like a supervisor. I almost had a tangent there where you saw the edge of the bar and the window were touching, so we had to get rid of that. Move it over just a tiny bit. Maybe this guy's telling a joke. Maybe he's not ordering a drink. Maybe. Ah, yes, Doug, taking to the new level. I think I visually decided that this is not a place that has like mastered using metal or anything like that, so everything's kind of rough. A lot of stuff is still made out of stone. There's a little bit of metal here and there, but not a ton. And this is kind of how I've had similar windows in other parts of the book. So it keeps some of the visual continuity, even if it's not perfect. You know, it's kind of like shorthand for musty window. I think he just has 2 arms here. He might have a third one. We can't see the other side so well. I planned that poorly, but put one of his hands up here like he's about to have a sip of his drink. And these are like shorthand textures that are used in cartooning a lot. Where if you look at like the work of like Ernie Cologne or whatever, he had some stock textures that he would use, like, and they worked. Like this was for stone, this was for wood, and things like that. And this is very similar to something that he would do in some of his like Arak comics. Yeah. I always hear the common phrase like comics are like movies without budgets, but I always see like the some of the like decisions that are made are like as if they were trying to save on a budget. Like if they, you know, guy in suit designs is one, like basic car is another that I always see that like why have a basic car in a comic book unless it's like supposed to be part of the story of like this is an ordinary person, like, you know, the spider buggy was invented for a reason because it's awesome. Put some bottles behind our buddy Ray. Different shapes though, like they're not going to be like your typical liquor bottles that you see nowadays. Here's our snacks. They're going to be little creatures hanging from this little window here. Doug, I think this was probably the darkest part of my design thus far was that the bags of chips behind the bar are actually these little critters. They eat these little critters. They all have little frowny faces because naturally they have their little feet hanging out. Yep, that was the idea. The little critters are the bar snacks. They don't serve like hot food or hot meals at this pub. It's just drinks and these little monster creatures. And see, then it just becomes like this fun little scene. And you know, I just when you flip through my sketchbooks or anything. Oh, thanks. There's just a little bit of wood here and there, but not much. Like I said, this is just designing as we go. We're not probably not going to use this stuff too, you know, for anything major. But some of the ideas, some of the story we came up with, like that'll definitely come up, you know, in something that will probably be completely unrelated. Spicy crickets. don't think I've ever had spicy crickets. Maybe I had, like, I think I've had the candy ones, the little candied insects. I think I've had those. Erase, erase, erase. Let's see if the face is better. Desiree, if you want it, I'll just be happy to send it to you. I'd be happy to just send it to you. Make sure we don't make any tangents with our rocks. Yeah, see, I never know, like, with these exercises, if people actually want them. They are, unless it's a character people have heard of. So I really appreciate, you digging something that is like, this is just something original on the fly. We're not drawing the Star Wars, or can we get any more bottles in here? Get a couple others. Undersea hero art is something I'm really looking forward to. That's going to be fun. I've been working on the Google Doc of all the story stuff and book stuff, and you had some really good ideas in your last email for what to do when we have books finished. There will be plenty of bar scenes in Undersea Hero, that I can pretty well guarantee you. So if our light's coming from over here, we'll have some cast light. It gets like bigger and bigger. This way. Windows over here, so actually his shadow is going to come this way. The D&D characters rolling in. I can see it. Let's see if this is one that has any juice to it. Not much. Maybe I'll flatten out this little portion here. Well, we kind of like skipped out on doing much wood, so maybe it has a wood floor. I don't know. Let's see. No rulers. No rulers. Just eyeballing the space. Because what we will then do after we clear this out. Is we'll get our brush. And I can just go back in and noodle with where the lighting comes from. And, this is just, for something like this is completely superfluous, but like, it's the kind of thing I'll do if I just keep going and keep noodling and keep adding to it. But See if we can zoom out here. Use my fancy zoom cranky. We can get the whole thing in there. Oh, there you go. This is as much of a writing exercise as I like to do as a drawing exercise. My sketchbook is filled with all kinds of stuff like this. Sometimes it's at a bar, sometimes it's at an airport, sometimes it's it's all over the place. And sometimes I'll just flip open to a page and be like, oh, I mean, maybe we'll get another bottle in there or whatever. And it's not about getting the drawing all correct. It's just about getting the ideas down and continuing to add story to it and add different ideas. And it's very rough. This is a very rough drawing, and it's not like what most people would consider publication ready, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to really challenge my ideas and my ability to come up with a story on the fly. And I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be something a little lighthearted with a little bit of cheese to it. And that's the idea. That's what I want to do. And in 2 weeks, I've now shown two really important things that I do in my sketchbooks, things that I practice, and I'm going to continue to do that from time to time. I know people want to see pictures of superheroes and stuff, and next week I'll be working on a long overdue commission for a good buddy of mine, and his very kind wife. But yeah, see, I'll just keep noodling. Yeah, that's the idea. You go from this area where people are getting drinks, and maybe you can just plop down another sheet of paper right here. And there's the big poker table, and everybody's like gathered around because it's at the last hand, and like there's a big bluff going on, or which one's bluffing, and that's just coming up with a story. It's the most fun part. It's what I love about making comics and drawing. And I also love that you guys came and hung out with me and chatted with me and continue to support my work. And my friends, I can't thank you enough. And I hope you all have a lovely evening. I hope the game is good. I hope the Brewers come back for you, Doug. And thanks for the awesome story ideas. And next week I'll be drawing a Spider-Man, Iron Man piece, and it'll be different, but it'll be fun. And I hope everyone has a lovely night. I'll see you next Wednesday.